Hi everyone, my name is James Lamosi, and for 16 years I've been the webmaster at unofficialtexmurphy.com, an online community dedicated to the Tex Murphy series of computer games. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why it is that I'm such a big fan of these games and what it is about them that's kept me a fan for over 16 years. Now, for those of you out there who have no idea what I'm talking about, your first question's probably, who's Tex Murphy?
Who are you, Tex?
I'm your entertainer tonight, Mr. Franco Spinoza.
Are you the private investigator?
My name's Tex Murphy, and I'm a private investigator.
So, you're Tex Murphy.
Oh, no, not Murphy.
My God, Murphy, you look like hell.
Oh, I usually don't look this bad. I forgot to take my Geritol this morning. My business is my own. I don't have a partner, and I don't like small talk. I forgot to mention that I cook, I clean, and I'm a love machine. But I happen to feel a certain obligation to do what's right, not just what serves my best interests. Look, prophecies aren't in my job description, okay? I'm just a humble PI trying to save the world as we know it. Danger's like Jell-O. There's always room for more.
I discovered Tex Murphy in high school when I came across the demo for Under a Killing Moon in Babbage's software store, and my dad had just bought a new Gateway PC, so I was on the lookout for games that would put this new computer through its paces. So I brought the demo home and fired it up, not really knowing what to expect or what this game was even all about. And, you know, suddenly it was the year 2042, and I was wandering around behind a pawn shop in San Francisco and trying to find clues to a recent burglary that had happened, and talking to a bum named Clint that lived in the dumpster. And when I say I was wandering around, it was an experience that I had never had before. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. You know, there were things like Doom and Wolfenstein and things out at that time, but this was something totally different. It was so detailed and so interactive. I mean, not only could you walk around, you could look up and look down and crouch down and search under things and look behind things and look in every corner, and nearly every object in this environment could be interacted with in some way. You could move trash cans and look at different objects. And I remember specifically one object in particular in this alleyway that totally surprised me.
It's one of those basketballs they used to give away at Weenie World. 10 seconds left. Down by 1. Murphy has the ball. He fakes. He drives. It's a 360.
He's foul.
And that's when I knew I was hooked. I can't tell you how many times I replayed that demo and how many times I watched Tex botch that dunk. That is still, to this day, one of my favorite moments from the entire series, because it's the moment where it finally clicked for me. This whole idea of detective noir meets comedy. And I knew I had to get my hands on the full game. And once I did, it blew me away. In the full game, that small pawn shop robbery I'd been investigating in the demo became, this race against time to save the entire mutant population of Earth from an ancient eugenics cult. At the same time, I was introduced to the cast of characters that populates Tex's home turf on Chandler Avenue, including Chelsea Bando, Tex's would-be love interest. And I got my first full taste of what makes a classic Tex Murphy story. Each one of Tex's adventures always starts off small, with what seems like a simple case. But then, layer by layer, more is revealed until the fate of the world is at stake, and Tex finds himself completely out of his element. His investigations take him from the back alleys of San Francisco to the top rungs of high society, to exotic jungles, to Earth's orbit and beyond. So, needless to say, I was a huge fan of Under a Killing Moon. And when the sequel came out, the Pandora Directive, it only served to raise the bar in every conceivable way. This time around, there were multiple story paths to take through the game. So your actions throughout the game had real consequences at the end. And the path that you took determined what resolution you got at the end of the game. Also, it started to build these relationships that had been set up in Under a Killing Moon. So you got to see more interaction between Tex and the regulars on Chandler Avenue. But you, most importantly, got to see a lot more about Tex and Chelsea's relationship and how that began to develop. And of course, the plot, the production values, the score, the gameplay, everything about Pandora was just... They took Under a Killing Moon and just cranked it up to 11. And, to this day, I think the Pandora Directive is sort of the flagship game in the series, just because it gets that balance just right of, epic plot, comedy, real relationships between characters, real consequences to your actions. It's just the perfect blend. It was after Pandora Directive that I put together a small little Tex Murphy fan page on my GeoCities site. And over time, that page grew to become the unofficial Tex Murphy website. And as rumors about the next Tex Murphy game started coming out, I started tracking down as many of them as I could and posting them online. And as a result of doing that, this community of fans began to come together and grow around our mutual love of Tex Murphy and our anticipation of his upcoming next adventure. As it turned out, Tex's next adventure would be a retelling of his first adventure, Mean Streets. Mean Streets and Martian Memorandum, which was the follow-up, were two Tex games that came out before Under a Killing Moon, and they were sort of more traditional point-and-click adventure games. But both of them actually were known for their technological advances at the time. Mean Streets was one of the first games to use the plain old PC speaker to generate sort of realistic sounding sound effects and voices. And Martian Memorandum utilized a sort of rudimentary full motion video that they would later go on to perfect in Under a Killing Moon. Now, due to a quick turnaround time that was the result of a bundling deal between Access Software and Intel, the new game, which was called Overseer, was not the same kind of epic, multi-pathed game that the Pandora Directive was. And some have kind of tended to see that as a step back for the series, but I totally disagree with that. I think that Overseer has all of the elements that make it a uniquely Tex Murphy story, but it's told in such a way that it's the most personal, the most intimate story in the series. It talks about how the events of Tex's first case and his relationship with his now ex-wife Sylvia turned him into this disheveled, down on his luck, always broke PI that we've come to know and love. And I think that for me, Overseer is the game in the series that sort of elevates Tex from just a character to somebody that lives and breathes. And so for me, Overseer is the game that makes Tex real. Throughout the whole series, we get to know a lot about Tex's past. His falling out with his mentor, the Colonel, his relationship and divorce from his ex-wife Sylvia, how he got the nickname Tex. We get to find out a lot about the man behind the hard-boiled persona. Tex is one of the most fully realized, fleshed out, realistic characters in any game series. Tex is not a super soldier. He doesn't have any special powers. He's not well trained or well funded. He's just a guy who finds himself in these extraordinary situations where a simple job snowballs out of control, and he finds himself in way over his head and has to get himself out of trouble with just a little bit of ingenuity and a lot of dumb luck, and somehow has to save the world in the process. And then at the end of the day, he comes back to his, broke, mundane, everyday life and has nothing to show for his exploits. However, at the end of Overseer, it looked like things might be looking up for Tex. He and Chelsea had just finished their first official date, and their relationship appeared to be moving to the next level. But, as is typical for Tex, and without giving too much away, Tex and Chelsea's evening took a turn for the worser, and their fate was left unresolved by a shocking cliffhanger. Chris Jones and Aaron Connors have tried several different avenues since then in order to bring Tex Murphy back to our screens and continue the story that was just hinted at the end of Overseer. And the closest attempt that they've made so far is a series of 6 episodes of Tex Murphy Radio Theater, which began to tell the story of what happened to Tex and Chelsea, but the full story has yet to be revealed. It's been 11 years since then, and 14 years since the last full-fledged Tex Murphy adventure. It's definitely time to bring back Tex Murphy.
Knowing Murphy, he's going to need help. A lot of help.
And that's where you come in. On May 15th, Big Finish Games will launch their Project Fedora Kickstarter project, giving you the power to bring back this great series filled with exciting stories, wonderful humor, and unique, memorable characters. In the meantime, you can get all the previous Tex Murphy games by going to GOG.com and downloading them all. And once you're done with that, come on over to unofficialtexmurphy.com, where you'll find a strong community of folks from around the world who each have their own story of why and how they became Tex Murphy fans. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll support Project Fedora on May 15th.